G'day traders, and welcome to a wrap up of the US markets for the week from December 2nd, Monday, December 2nd. So let's get into it. Plenty to talk about this week. We've had a bit of an increase in price action, a little bit more width within the market, which is fantastic to see. Let me start by bringing over a daily chart. So each one of these candles was representing a day. So if I just put a little box around, this is the area we're looking at here. Basically all these red candles is this week. Is the area we're at. So remembering in past wrap-ups we've talked about as soon as we get a pullback from high areas, automatically the width of the market starts to increase, volume starts to increase, because all of a sudden this battle between the buyers and sellers really starts to increase, and you see a lot more movement and action. So that's exactly why it's this week we've seen a lot more opportunities. Monday start off a little bit slow because we're still at the top. We're basically getting the first pullback candle on Monday, but then each successive day continue to get these pullbacks, and we start to see some big moving days, especially Wednesday. We'll go through it, three massive trends, which we haven't seen something like that for quite a while. So this is the start of the week. Obviously we're still at the highs, that's why a little bit of a narrower market. You can see the power box here, nice easy one to identify, very compact as well. We've got a significant swing high here, significant swing low here. If you sort of go back to the market, it was just within that range. So because we've got this point, upper and lower point, as we basically open the market, we can definitely go with that. Major support and resistance just above the power box, and also down here, which came into play later on in the day. So the market, to start off with, it really started to push down. If you look across to the other markets, see how they're strongly pushing down and really holding the downside. As I sort of scroll through this market, even as the ES, this market we trade, starts to pop up a bit here, we can see the other markets really containing themselves to the downside. Okay, so for that reason, very much a day where we're looking for selling opportunities. So as it come down here, we're not looking for a bounce off the box, even though it did come close and would have worked the bounce. We're not going with the probabilities there. If it wanted to break out, then we would have looked at a continuation, but not looking at sort of bouncing or buying here, just because the other markets are showing that there's some selling going on. And even as we push through here, it continues to sell. The other markets continue to sell off, even though this ES market is drifting up. As we come up to this edge here, so we came up to close to the top edge of the power box, this is a great place to look for a sell. So anywhere around here would have got a couple of points, and again it's sort of the other markets very much holding the downside, which is what we want to see. If we're taking reversion, we want to see everything really sticking back and showing that the seller's around, and meaning that you're going to get some sort of resistance as we approach the top of this box. One, because there's other markets holding the downside, and two, because there's a support and resistance major area here as well. So opportunity there to get that little bit of a move there. Then all of a sudden they started coming back and breaking up. So if we're looking for a continuation, a real push through the upper side of this box, we really need other markets showing power within the buyers, and you can see that they continue to hold and sell off. So we're certainly not looking to buy as it's breaking up here. So there's a time to pick your breakouts and your continuations. This is certainly not one of them. When the market's all of a sudden going up like this, and there's just nothing as far as other markets, no power, no momentum in the upside. It's a really dangerous area to be looking if you're trying to buy. As far as sellers, but certainly a lot better option. You can eventually see the sellers that they've come in really strongly here and push down to the bottom side of the box again. Breakout side, bit of a pullback. And then a continuation down here. This is very late in the afternoon, but essentially it's working on the same theories, getting outside that original power box area, looking for a pullback, and then continuation. And as you can see, look at late in the afternoon, look at these other markets, very strong, a lot of momentum, a lot of power on the downside there. So even though starting off the week it was a fairly tight range within the morning, there was still trading opportunities, and that's why it's so important to identify these support and resistance areas, and then also look at these other markets. They give you a really good indication of what is potentially happening, giving an insight into the future price action. Okay, so moving along, we're on to Tuesday now. You can see the power box getting a little bit bigger, the day's range getting a little bit bigger. We're starting to pull back from these highs now. As far as this power box, we've got a significant low edge here, which is easy to recognise. So that's our low. side, or as far as the trading is concerned. As far as the upside, you can see up a bit higher there. We've come from quite a few hours back. There's no real significant edge until we get to here. This is where it's coming from. So sometimes, we look from 8 o'clock onwards, from here onwards, because that's when the market's usually most active. But if there's nothing there, we do go back in time to find those significant edges, and that's the whole idea of this power box. We trade. We've got multiple trading opportunities, but we base them on specific areas in the market. We get very specific as to where we want to trade, because if you stick to these powerful edges, ultimately that's the best way to get those higher probability setups. Especially newer traders as well, it's really important just to stick to very recognizable areas rather than just sort of letting yourself trade anywhere, because that's where you're going to get a little bit unstuck and maybe start to get a little bit lost. So especially early on, stick to edges. Very easy to identify edges such as this power box. That's why it's such a great trading opportunity, and there's multiple ways to approach it. And then if you feel comfortable with that and start doing well with that, you can move on to other things like mid-range areas. So this particular day, you can see major support and resistance here, and also at the bottom side of the box. Ultimately, this support and resistance, remembering we put these lines in well and truly before the day starts, so they're just significant price areas within the market. Let me bring up the 15-minute chart. I didn't actually bring that up, just for a quick look at what's happened throughout the week. So that's this box here, this line here is where we're looking. So previously it's been something that's held the market up, we've got down underneath it, and then we're coming up here and using it as resistance, and ultimately that's where this market's pushed down from. You can see also the next day, which we're going to get to eventually, used it almost exactly as well, an area to resist, or as a ceiling to push down from. Okay, and all through these areas the market's just, in most cases, are reacting quite well to these support and resistance areas. So we've come up here, we've really, it keeps on banging its head and it's not able to get through, and you can see the buyers just really starting to fall off. As I move along here through this, look across the other markets again and just watch how they get lower and lower and lower. There's no power, there's no momentum from the buy side. So what's that say? Absolutely, we really look to sell. It's definitely a sell off type of day, and that's the sort of thing you want to look at. So as far as the edge, I'll get down to this particular area here. That's a great trading opportunity. If you are looking at mid-range, like I said, it's best to stick to the edges earlier on. But if you're feeling a bit more confident and you want to look at these mid-range areas, this is a power fade, really good area, because as you can sort of see, there's a bit of a channel going on here. The market's being held to the upside and held to the downside, but momentum is gaining on the downside. As soon as you get a break of this channel, this has got power. It should really go and pop down to this edge quite quickly, which is exactly what it's done. So looking to fade or go through that power point, good little trading opportunity there. Eventually we've come down to the edge of the power box. Let me just put the power box back on. It's just disappeared for a moment. There we go. So we've come down to the edge of the power box. Now we're looking for it to come down and break. There is major support and resistance area there, so we want to be careful. This can be an area that acts as a floor, can be also a great area that once it breaks, there's sellers underneath there just looking to continue the move. So it can also be an area, if you're confident in it, of really breaking through with some good pressure as well. So it can work both ways, but absolutely you need other market support, other markets showing that it's really looking to push through. You want to be very careful if you see the other markets bouncing or hesitating in this area. So if I scroll along and show you other markets, you can see the lines on the other markets too. Let me extend those a bit so you can see this. That one there. And this one here is our low as well. Okay, so as we're coming down and breaking here, you can see the Russell is definitely broken through. The Nasdaq is just there. It's sort of not breaking through yet. So what we do is we call that a neutral market. You've got one market going and one market that hasn't. So when that happens, flick across and use another market which we call the Dow Jones. Let me just grab it. Here it is here. So there's that same significant low edge that we're looking at. Now look where we are as I sort of scroll through to the breakout candle over here on the market we trade. Have a look where it is on the Dow Jones. On the Dow Jones. So there's our power. There's our real confirmation that there's sellers around and that they're looking to take this lower. So that particular market's handy for that. If you look across to these two markets and it's you're not quite sure, utilize the Dow Jones for those continuations. However, reversions, if you're looking for the market to hold at edge, I'd really suggest that you have all the markets holding really strong. Because you're really looking at a change in direction. You want to be a lot more sure about it, whereas continuations, they're going with the current direction. So just as long as you see some markets breaking it and at least all the markets within the area, then that's good to go. You've got that confirmation. So here's the breakout candle. Here's a pullback candle. So look to sell off once we get a pullback. That's a better entry. Then give it a bit of room to move. So it popped back a bit, but ultimately it's held. And then it's gone lower. It's gone a good 3 points lower plus there. From there you can see it's pulled back to the edge. It's then gone lower again. So this is this pressure that we're seeing from the other markets all pushing through and all together, showing that there's strength on the sell side through these markets. And see how it also reacts to these major support and resistance areas. We've come down to this next major area. It's got a little bit of a bounce there, so all the other markets starting to stall with this in this area here. If I show you, so this is where we can sort of see how effective this support and resistance is going to be. Is it an area it's going to bounce through, or is it an area that it's going to look to hold? And you can see the other markets just really losing momentum here. So as the market we trade, the ES, is breaking down, the other markets are really starting to bounce up a bit. They're losing their momentum on the downside. So all of a sudden this area, which is an area of price that the market really recognises, it's going to do one thing. It's either going to break through it or bounce off it. So as we've already broken through this price above, but as we come to this one here, because other markets are stalling, it's an area that's more likely, going with probability, to get a bounce off. That's exactly what it's done. It's come up to the next one, stalled off it, and then come back at it again, then eventually got the thrust to be able to push through it. Okay, so moved along now. Let's look at Wednesday. Before we get in it, let me just take a moment just to show you just how big this particular day was. Quickly scroll through it. We had this big uptrend followed by an even bigger two-legged downtrend, and then the third trend within its massive trend within itself. So 3 big moves within the day. As far as that sort of movement and that many trends, not very often we get something like that. So a lot of price action on this particular day. In regards to the power box, you can see quite an obvious swing low here. So this is why we've marked this lower edge. So if the market comes down, we would certainly be interested in looking at that, which we do later on, which we'll go through. The upper edge, we just had to go a little bit before 8 o'clock to this area here. Okay, so we've got a significant edge here which we've marked in. So if the market wants to go up there, we'd be interested in looking at that as well, which it did get to, which we'll have a look at in a moment. We've got the purple major support and resistance areas. So because this day is such a lot of width, we actually hit quite a few of these major support and resistance areas. And then just to start off the day, we've got this yellow line here. So this is just, I've just marked in here what's called yesterday's low. Okay, so yesterday's low and also yesterday's high, these are also significant areas within the market. It's just a significant edge that when the market comes along, it's an area it's really worthwhile watching. Again, you watch what the other market's doing as we come into these areas, and look for either reversion or a continuation through these areas. So it's worth identifying these areas and just sticking to these and trading them. So that's why we identify the edge either through the power box, but also yesterday's low and yesterday's high are just as effective. If you go back and test it and see how often the market just reacts really well to these edges. It's a matter of identifying price action and utilising other markets to really see what happens. So as we've come down here, we've bounced off created a significant swing low. All of a sudden we're pushing up. We're hitting our head straight on this first support and resistance area. Okay, and then we come back. We're hitting yesterday's low, and we look across to other markets, and you see, look at them all there at this point. They're all holding and really looking like they're not going to keep on going down and break back down through the area. So this is a logical area to hold and potentially go higher from, which is exactly what they've done. They've turned around on the spot here and just really started then drive up through this support resistance area, so which it did held. Obviously now we've got momentum and power as we're pushing up through here. You can see all the other markets getting drive and thrust up, so it's a likely area to go higher from this time after getting the bounce at yesterday's low. We've gone straight up through this next support resistance, so it hasn't slowed it down at all. Straight up to the power box, or the edge of the power box. So as we're coming up here, again we look across the other markets. Once we start breaking it, we go, okay, what are the other markets doing? Again, they're getting power momentum through it. Wait for that pullback candle, that better entry, and then away it goes through the area there. A likely continuation area up to the next support and resistance. And you can see here, this is where it starts to really turn around. All of a sudden it starts to get choppy. It starts to lose the follow through effect. All of a sudden things start stopping. Again, if I sort of slide the other markets across there, you can see they're doing the same thing. They're failing to get through. They're pulling back, going back at the support and resistance. But if you look to the left hand side, there's just no one able to push through or get a continuation through. So that says all of a sudden this momentum really looks like it's going to stop, and eventually it's turned around and come back down within the range. And then all of a sudden we've got this second major trend happening for the day. And it's the same thing as you keep coming to these major areas within the market. You just look across to other markets, and ultimately they're the ones that will tell you what's likely to happen. Areas like this where it pushes down, we create a swing, a pullback, and then as it comes at the swing point, or as it comes at the pullback point, look across the other markets. What are they doing? In this case they're breaking through, so they're likely to get a continuation. Okay, but like we say, stick to these sort of break, continuation, reversion areas to these major edges. That's why we say do it around the power box, because they're the areas that we've tested and we know you can really trade effectively and trade really well from. So same here, come down, we create a swing point. Let me slide the other markets across. There we go. We've created this swing point, right near the support and resistance. Come up, use the next support resistance as a ceiling to hold from, and then again we've just launched ourselves, and there's another wave of sellers have come in and just thrown this market to the downside. From there, right down the bottom here, eventually it's turned around. I guess this point as a turning point, a little bit more of a difficult one to pick, because at the end of the day there was a ton of momentum coming down here, and all of a sudden on the spot, it's turned straight around. So as you start to see a bounce like this, you just wait and see. Again, you can measure, what's it doing around this area as it sort of comes up here, gets some small pullbacks. We can see all the other markets continuing to drive and get some momentum back to the upside. So it could be possibly an area where a third trend starts. Third trends of the day are hard ones, because normally if you get a big first and second trend, the market will like to do what we call consolidation, just sort of go sideways for a while and just sort of, I guess, think about what they've just done. So trading third trends depends on what you're experienced at. It really doesn't happen that often, not a massive third trend like this. So it'd be an area where I'll just be like, it's getting towards the end of the day, I guess we'll leave alone. But again, if you're confident it's something that you know well, absolutely you can look at trading opportunities. It's the same sort of thing. There's all these ebbs and flows, pullbacks. Look across to other markets. Are you getting drive through the area, or is it sort of holding back and looking to possibly get a reversion where it comes back within the range? And we just do that same thing over and over again. It just becomes a predictable process, and this is where you can start to really apply probability in your side and get really confident with what you're trading. And that's why utilizing these other markets, they're such a powerful indicator, such a powerful tool. It really is like having a little bit of a look into the future, and it's giving us that information as to what's coming as far as future price action. Now we've got Thursday, so moving along, you can see a day of still certainly a fair bit of movement, but compared to Wednesday, a little bit of a tighter day. Usually you get that when you get a massive day like Wednesday was. You get a bit of a consolidation sort of day where it doesn't move as much. But in saying that, it's whipping all over the place. There's still plenty of movement within this market. We've got the box up here, so we've got a significant high point up here. You can see, very obvious swing point, very obvious swing point down here. So that's our sort of boundaries to operate within. And then some major support and resistance areas too, which the market has reacted to quite a few times. So we've come up here, we've bounced off this support and resistance, so that's our real sort of sign that maybe these markets are trying to go higher. But as they're breaking up through this point here, you sort of look at this previous swing high, have a look at the other markets again. One of the markets is there, one of the other markets not so much. It's a bit of a neutral area. It's certainly not really powerful. And then it's found resistance. I mean, almost got up to this next level here, but found resistance, which has ultimately sent it back within the range and sent it straight back down to this bottom side of the box. So around this area here, it was a bit of a 50-50 area as far as looking to bounce off and get a reversion here. Again, some markets were there, and then you can see the top left-hand market, Russell, well and truly off it. So it's showing signs that there is potential for it to bounce here. Also the Dow Jones, it was well and truly off its lows as well. So opportunity for reversion here, or a little bit of a move to get a bounce off the range, which has done. It's gone 3 points, bit over 3 points. Then it's come back at the downside. We're breaking through, but you can see at this particular stage, we still haven't got a lot of power or momentum on the downside, even though it's coming back at this edge again. And sometimes when they come back at an area, that'll often be the time they break through, but you want to see it come back with power, and you want to see it come back with momentum from the other markets. So again, you look at the other markets, it's just not there. They're not breaking through, breaking these same lower edges of the market. So ultimately, it's likely to be an area that stalls and doesn't go through. So that's exactly what's happened. We've got the break. Here's the pullback candle where we'd look to get a continuation, but because we've got no momentum from the other markets, we're not touching it, and that's exactly what it does. It goes back within the range, comes and has another go, still no power, and then ultimately it just keeps on coming back within the range. It's got no momentum to push through. Here, this is a reversal area again, a changing of the momentum. For one, it's like we said, it just can't break down through this area here, and other markets showing that as well. But two is we've got this situation where it's coming up making higher highs and higher lows. So we're getting this reversal formation when eventually it comes up through here and breaks up a little bit higher. So then as we break up higher, we've got this stalling action. There's no follow through, no massive momentum. I mean, it looked like it was coming, but then all of a sudden the other markets just really started to drop off. Let me refresh this one. The data's not all there. There we go. So as we're coming through, you see pull back here off the support resistance. Is it going to push up higher? The other markets are trying to get there. Certainly no massive momentum or anything, but and then eventually it's started to stall back to the downside. And you can see the other markets really breaking down through their lows as well. Let me slide them across. And to finish off, we're just fairly choppy, but within these major support and resistance area, you can see not able to get out, just channeling to finish off the day. So that's a wrap up for the week. Great to see some more action, and hopefully we continue to see these markets pull back off their highs, and we'll continue to see this sort of movement within the market, which brings us a lot more trading opportunities, a lot more to talk about, which is great. So good luck with your trading, and we'll speak very soon.